In the year 325, the most dangerous thing in the Roman Empire wasn't a barbarian horde or a rival general. It was a choice. For 3 centuries, Christianity was a chaotic explosion of ideas. There were dozens of gospels, hundreds of secret traditions, and no single Bible. But for an emperor trying to hold a crumbling world together, chaos was a death sentence. This wasn't just a debate about faith. It was an imperial purge. Behind those closed doors, the winners were chosen, and the losers were condemned to be wiped off the face of the earth. Today, we enter the room where the secret history of the world was rewritten, and discover why some dared to bury the truth in the sand instead of letting it burn. The ink on the council's decrees was barely dry before the fires began. Once the official story of Jesus was codified, every other version became a crime. This was the birth of the Index, the first systematic purge of the written word in the name of a unified state. Constantine's message was clear. To disagree with the church was to defy the emperor. The soldiers who once hunted the faithful were now hunting their books. The Gospel of Mary, the secret book of John, the Gospel of Philip, titles that had been read for generations were suddenly labeled poison. Possession meant prison. Hiding them meant death. But how do you delete a thought? In the great libraries of Alexandria and the hidden villas of Upper Egypt, a desperate underground resistance formed. Scribes worked through the night, not to copy the new imperial Bible, but to preserve the voices that were being silenced. One group of monks at a monastery near Nag Hammadi faced a choice: obey their bishops and burn their library, or commit an act of holy treason. They chose the latter. They sealed their forbidden gospels in jars, buried them at the foot of a cliff, and left them to the mercy of the desert sands, hoping that one day the empire would no longer be listening. For 1,600 years, the silence was absolute. The empire had won. The forbidden gospels were forgotten, reduced to footnotes in the records of the men who burned them, until a shovel hit something hard in the red earth of Nag Hammadi. Inside that jar weren't gold or jewels. They were 52 ancient texts, the very ones the Roman legionaries had been ordered to destroy. The ghosts of early Christianity had finally returned to haunt the history books. These pages didn't just offer new stories. They offered a completely different version of reality. A version where God was found within, not through a government-sanctioned church. A version where women were the primary leaders of the faith. These were the voices the Council of Nicaea tried to kill, and they were finally speaking again. The political drama of the 4th century didn't just decide a religion. It decided which parts of the human story we were allowed to remember. But as the desert proved, you can bury a book, but you can't bury the truth forever. If 52 books were found in a single jar in 1945, we have to ask ourselves, what else is still sleeping beneath the sands? How many other dangerous truths were buried by those who sought to control the narrative? History isn't just what happened, it's what survived the flames. And perhaps, somewhere in the silence of the desert, the rest of our story is still waiting to be found.